Hi everybody, can you can you see me? Can you hear me? I can see a few names on there, so hopefully you can see me loud and clear. See Elizabeth Remsen, Baby Girl's mom, Susan O, KCM 2012, David Howarth, and Polly. So welcome one and all. And hi Susan, I'm glad that does suggest, with a very mild delay, that hi Catherine, it's good to have you on. It's a rather nice warm evening here in York today. Hand pink waving, love it. Hi Elizabeth, Natasha, lovely to see you, lovely to have you on. What time are we on? 8:58, so 7:58. Let's see what's it. Leslie R is with us. Hello Leslie. On Stefan's Jewish tour, okay, we'll see you when we see you. Michelle Juxon, Laurie JH, hello there, Laurie. And my finger looks really odd there, doesn't it? I'm trying to just scroll, so I apologise that if you have a gigantic finger there. You're not being attacked by a normal pink sausage. It's me just trying to scroll up through the chat. And love me a cat tour, says Elizabeth Remsen. Okay, fantastic. Hello Dawn. Good to see you, good to have you on. So, well, I've only done this once before, and it was ages ago. I think it was about nearly a year ago. Humphrey's all right, actually. Thank you for inquiring, David. Humphrey is doing okay right now, but he's finding the heat a little bit much. But he's doing okay. He's our lad. So thank you for inquiring after him. Hello, Nikki. Lovely to have you back on. And Pizzazz Crooks. What a great name you have. I can hear a bell tolling. Do not ask for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee. Famous John Donne, which suggests that it's time for me to get on and talk about Kits, Cats, Sacks and Wives. Remember that one? How many are going to St Ives? Is that right? Okay, as I was going to St Ives, I met a man with 7 wives. Each wife had 7 sacks, is it? Each sack had 7 cats. Each cat 7 kits. Kits, Cats, Sacks and Wives. How many were going to St Ives? There you go. Don't know where I dug that from, but it felt like a good place to start. So if we're all fine dandy and in good spirits and fine fettle, so I'm good to enjoy it. I can't remember when I did it. It was definitely, I think it was last sort of summertime. So let's essentially do it again. And I'll try and find some new cats that we didn't show you last time, but I'm struggling to remember exactly where I took you, so I can't promise that. But I think there's 1 or 2 that we can add into. Yeah, thank you, Anne. Yes, I've heard it, couldn't quote it. Hello, Alison. So yeah, tonight is the Mystery Cats of York tour, which, to my knowledge, still remains the world's only virtual walking tour dedicated to cats. And where better to do that than here in the ancient city of York, here amongst the ancient streets and the buildings. Cats are present. Not everyday cats, though, but beautiful works of art, tributes to our relationships with our feline friends. And on this tour, you must search to discover these cats, for they're not going to make it easy. And while we walk and search, you're going to hear stories about cats believed to be gods, and cats believed to serve the devil, and how cats have inspired devotion and suspicion throughout our shared history. How's that for queuing up? So let's start. Let me turn this round, and we're going to start searching out for our first cat of the evening. And where are we? There we go. So do look out and let me know when you spot a kitty cat, and then we'll zoom in if we can for those that haven't been able to become eagle-eyed enough. I'm sure those working on big screens will probably have an easier go of it, but do let me know when you've spotted the first of our feline friends of this evening. It may well be the light is not our friend. Let me move down. Hello, Kit. Fab. Leslie's got it. So I think Leslie, the first to call that out. So let's just try and do a bit of zoom if we can. And there we have it. So our first cat of the evening, very much in the Egyptian style. And this cat is done by an artist called Jonathan Newdick, who has done an awful lot of the cats in the city. And he really kind of captures them in a beautiful way. And what I love about these is that people go backwards and forwards about their business, and not notice they're there, but they're constantly being spied upon. If I just got to take this sort of back down off the zoom for you, you'll see this isn't a kind of a fancy building. It's a nice building, but it's an accountancy office. So it's not that everything is there right in the kind of heart of the tourist centre, looking out for it. They're just part of the city. They're kind of part of life in York, and I absolutely love that. So well done for everybody who spotted our first feline friend. And let us try and cross over without getting run over. And like I say, what I want to try and do really is almost talk. I'll give you another shot. Here. Almost make kind of like the 9 lives of cats. And because I read a book a while back called The Curious History of Cats. I found it fascinating. So I've got quite a lot of material for tonight's tour from there. And it's such an interesting relationship, our kind of relationship with cats. Isn't it wonderful? And don't you think he's got a real nobility? Somebody want to give this cat a name? What do we think? Let's throw this out there. Lethargy, there's about 30 odd in town, but some of them are a bit too far. I think we're going to see about 10, 15 or so this evening. So let's walk on. So cats emerged in the wild, but through their kind of relationship with humans, everything kind of changed. We've got to a stage now where offspring of cats are being housed and fed and entertained by humans. Sorry, it's a bit ugly this bit, I beg your pardon. Cats no longer, of course, hunt for food. Instead, they eat lavish meals. And it's the humans that go out to hunt at the supermarket. And instead of living in tree hollows and caves, cats sprawl on human beds or nap away on special soft beds that we've made for them. And a few cats now have kittens to care for, or caterwauling tomcats to kind of satisfy. They've got a kind of pretty good life, it has to be said. So we're just walking down Lendl in towards St Helens Square. We're going to talk about St Helen just in a moment. But just before we sort of go any further, how many cat owners have we got on here? So give us a little wave. That's a cat. If there's a cat icon, use that. But otherwise, give me a wave if you are currently a cat mummy or daddy, or if you forget to look after one, a cat auntie or a cat uncle. Let's see how many of us have got these wonderful animals in our lives right now. Is there any on? Hello, Alan. Slung in some hello, so I'm not quite sure if we're a little bit behind on the chat, but not to worry. So St Helens Church is about to kind of hove into view, and I'm going to tell you about St Helen a little bit later on the tour. St Helen is famously the mother of Constantine, and there's a bit of cats over there. Okay. And so St Helen is often known as the story of the lady who found the first sort of true cross, if you like. That's what's associated with St Helen and the true cross. But there's also a great story about her as a cat lady that I'm going to tell you a little bit later on. Some of you might have been to her in Cyprus. So how did that kind of transformation then occur? From cats, if you like, as a working animal to a pet, and why? If we think about it, kind of when dogs entered human society, they kind of earned their living by obeying orders, helping humans hunt, guarding their homes. As well as being kind of man's best friend, they became his obedient helper. Now, cats, by contrast, do no such thing. They kind of keep their independence. Initially, they kind of worked to keep rats and mice population down, but they never really kind of took orders. A cat's duty is to take graciously from the human, and the human's duty is to kind of conscientiously give to the cat. Cats have an independent life of their own, condescending to only share part of it with their kind of self-styled owners. And they're also kind of great survivors who've adapted well to the 21st century, and some have even become celebrities. with thousands of avid followers on social media. But cats are kind of no stranger to worship or adoration, as we're soon going to discover they were once worshipped as gods. And here in York, they still are. And because cats have never forgotten this, I think if you kind of look into the unblinking eyes of your cat, you'll see its ancestral memories of being worshipped by humans. Now, most cats are pretty friendly and loving, but they watch us. They watch. And there's one I'm going to come into in a minute who's watching us. So again, you've got to look out for the spot. So start getting those eyes peeled.
Ladies.
I'll tell you, I'm just a little bit behind. I thought we were a bit near, but we're just here. So start looking out for a cat. Jasper, is that the name, is it? Keep them peeled. And let me know when somebody peeks into view. Just finding the right unit now, making sure I walk past, doing it the wrong way. Oh, here we are. Let me know when you see a cat. I guarantee a cat is around here somewhere. I think the chat's a little behind, so I'm just going to try and just give you a moment to orientate. I see a devil. Yeah, we'll just pass the devil, so that's good. So it does suggest that the chat is not too far behind now. Are we getting it? That's it, Katie. I'm above the door. So for those that haven't as yet, meet Gordon. So another cat watching us. Thank you. Top of the room. So this is kind of Gordon, and Gordon's very shy. So you will say hello, Gordon, so he feels a bit more welcome. So do say hello, Gordon. So Gordon is modelled on a stray cat that attached himself to his new owner while they were on holiday near Whitby. And he'd kind of been through the wars. You can probably see he's got a damaged eye. He's missing an eye, and kind of battle-scarred ears. And they brought him home, and he became a loyal and affectionate cat, who obviously really kind of appreciated being loved and cared for. Now, sadly, Gordon died in 2014, and Gordon is memorialised here in one of the more recent additions to York's Strange Cat Trail. He was sculpted by a chap called Owen Bridge, a York sculptor. And so on this tour, we're going to seek out more of these mysterious felines hidden amongst the ancient streets of the city, watching us, always watching. And in the way they watch and in their friendly interest in us, there's just a flicker of condescension. They have no doubt that humans are the inferior species. And looking around the world we've made, perhaps, ladies and gentlemen, they're right. So come on then, let's continue with our journey. Oops, got that wrong. Try and get the zoom off, not the easiest. There we go. I've only just found that zoom. That was that nice. So onwards and upwards. You won't be surprised to find out, no doubt, that our next destination is the cat shop, which is just around the corner from here, very, very close. And we're looking for another cat by Jonathan Newdick, who, as I say, is the kind of go-to artist if you want to join the Grand York tradition and have a cat sculptured for your property. He is the guy to go to. So, not surprisingly, start looking. I'm sure that kitty cat is in a hove into view for you any moment. And then I'll look in the window of the cat gallery to... we got it? I said, I think we've got a slight delay on the chat, so I'm just kind of holding back a little bit till somebody actually officially does the spotting of our latest, the third of this evening's. Oh, hello, Gordon. We are a little bit behind, aren't we? So, I don't know why that's happening, but it's slightly frustrating. But nonetheless, I'm going to assume that you are able to spot. And poor Gordon, I know it was awful that he should be in that state, but how wonderful for him to. So, see what? I'm going to have a look in the window of the cat gallery until I kind of catch up and I can hear somebody saying about where we're at with the latest cats. I'm sure some of the cat's going to wave at you in the meantime. First ever cat litter in the US. So cat gallery, of course, is a great go-to destination. Cat lovers coming to York. They've got a great website. So see a cat outside the window. Thank you, white cat. So I think you're beginning to kind of catch up now. So isn't that wonderful? It's really realistic, isn't it? Beautiful, but quite realistic too. So anything you want here, whether it's decorative, cushions, cards, socks, stockings, no doubt kits, cats, sacks and wives, all for sale. So above the door of the cat shop, absolutely. So for those who hadn't caught that, let's give that a little bit of zoom. And what's nice is the variety of it. You know, obviously this one offers kind of white cat, Avita's with a black cat, with a ginger cat, a white cat this time. So it's not simply a case of, you know, there's just one kind of cat. That each one of the statues and the sculptures is kind of different in its own kind of way, which I think is just lovely. It's really sort of charming. So as I say, it's not just any one thing, it's lots of things. But I love this as well. Just have a look at the, what do you call it, the painting sign with it above the cat gallery. It's cats up on rooftops, scampering, kind of coming to life, isn't it? You know, with that freedom that cats have. And then just pausing for a moment to lick a paw. And then right at the end, we have a cat and a kitten, which is a bit of a clue because that's where we're heading off next. So I'll just give you another opportunity to just catch up what's in the window of the store. He does look very proud. I completely agree with you, Michelle. I think that's a great way of putting it. So, lucky birthstone cat. So if you're after something for, something that is in your sort of birthstone, that's kind of available too. Got little, not keyring things. Those things you put on the back of your phones, aren't they? Some lovely mats. So, I'm sure those that have cats will know that it's almost impossible to do anything when the cat wants your attention. So we've got cat scarves, you name it. So do look out for them. Check out their website. It is the catgallery.co.uk. Sandy needs a birthday cat. So it looks like the chat's sad. So what month is your birth, Sandy? Let's find you your birthstone. Like Egyptian style cats over there, very pretty. They're absolutely delightful. So Sandy, let me know which your birth is. And while we're at it, we'll just December. December. I see you've got a blue opal. There's your cat. So you can have one that's sitting up, the little kitten style, or one lying down. So you pay your money and takes your choice. What you fancy there. If you're a lucky gemstone cat. So it feels like it's slightly on zoom. Yeah, I thought it was. Right. Let us walk on. Oh, Robin, September. Okay, lovely. So you've got a blue aventurine. Does that make sense? I don't know, is that how you pronounce it? Blue aventurine. Generally, but a little blue cat. Oh. So, treat the chiefy 50. I think you should do, Sandy. I mean, there won't be a lot. I mean, it's not that sort of place. It's the sort of place. Well, I'll tell you how much they are. The sitting ones, the little ones are £9, and the bigger ones are £12. So I guess in dollars, you're probably looking at about maybe 11 and then maybe 14, 15. So this isn't a website again. Of course, maybe goes on. So let's do that for you. Just so www.thecatgallery.co.uk. In November. Let's check out November, shall we? So November is yellow calcite. So that's in between the two blue ones there. So you've got something that's like almost an ivory colour, isn't it? I would say that. So a creamy ivory colour. So Over we go. June, Nancy and Matt. So June is an opal. So you can see there next to the green, very sort of pale blue, lovely opal colour is your birth cat. So September Dawn, I think we did September already. We'll do it again. So that's blue Adventurine. So that's the one on the extreme left-hand side on the bottom row there. So that's yours. And March, top shelf, Linda. That's like March. Oh yeah, another cat. Labradorite. I think like Labrador with "ite" on the end. Is that something people have heard of? It's a bit hard to read because of the sort of flat texture, but I think that's Labradorite. But it's a cool colour, isn't it? I like that, the grey. Really nice. I think if I was just picking one just on colour, I'd probably go with that colour. I think it looks really neat. And of course, June's is lovely. Yeah, June the opal. And you see August, the red veiny stone. That's quite unusual too, isn't it? The red vein stone. I'm not kind of... thank you, Sandy. I'm never quite sure with pronunciations. You sort of mess up. But thankfully I have you lot to keep me on the straight and narrow. So, Patty, fab. Right, shall we have a little walk on and go and see our next bunch of furry friends? From Labrador in Canada. Oh, great spot. Almost certainly right, isn't it? Like, what is Labrador? Is that like a place, like a national park or something? Is it an area? I've heard of it, but is that Labrador Sound, or have I made that up? That's all right. Oh, hello, Rev Dot. Lovely to have you. Lovely to have you here. We're talking about ladies of the cloth and their relationship with cats a little bit later on. So do stay tuned for that. Right, so let's go back to our story about the cats. The ancestors of the domestic cat are descended from a beast that roamed the earth more than 50 million years ago. And the beast was known as Myosis. And this was a forebay not just of cats, but also their traditional enemy, the dog. And the first true cats in history are kind of similar to today's lynx, and it appears they've been around for about 10 million years in total. But it's with cats first domesticated in ancient Egypt around 4,000 years ago that the story of modern cats kind of really begins. So at that stage, cats lived as carnivores, away from mankind, rearing their kittens in whatever shelter they could, feeding them mice, lizards and even insects. And the Egyptians were the first to take these wild creatures as pets. And they were attracted by the grace and detached dignity. And the Egyptians began by adopting cats as honoured members of the family. But in time they began to attribute cats with supernatural powers. And they were deified as gods. I'm sure you'll have seen cat icons from Egypt. So the Egyptians had a tradition of believing that their gods walked the earth disguised as animals, and several gods were depicted as cat or part cat. And it was believed that the sun god Ra took the form of a cat in his nocturnal fights with the great snake demon Apopis. And they believed that each night Apopis would lie in wait, hoping to defeat his cat enemy to prevent the sunrise. But every night Ra triumphed, causing the sun to rise. So it's no wonder they venerated the cats. The sun brought fertility and life and was represented by Bastet or Bast. And Bastet was the goddess of fertility and was always represented as a cat. And she became one of the most important of all the Egyptian gods. We're going to have to find a way to get images back on these tours, because even have to start holding them back up like we used to in the early days of Hago, because I miss sharing images with you. So the legend has it that... Sorry, let's get a drink actually. So has any, apart from Zoom, have any of the guys managed to crack a find a way of doing hypnotise their owners? Yes, absolutely. Has any of the guides been able to find a way of integrating images yet? There's always some clever people out there that kind of suss out and think how to do it, because it was definitely something we enjoyed. Stefan has been training. Yeah, I think there's a thing called Prism, which allows you to kind of use images. So hopefully you'll have some good experience of that. And Dilly, fantastic! Oh, fantastic! I'll tap up Stefan and find out what he's done, because he's always only on Zoom. Yeah, I've done it on Zoom, but I'm sure there'll be a way. We'll find it. So anyway, legend has it that Bastet was settled thereafter known as the city of the Bubastis, meaning city of the cat, and it became an important pilgrimage site. Now the city had many carvings, stone carvings of cats, And within the temple complex, these cats were treated as sacred beings. The officials of the temple were given the responsibility of looking after the cats. And pilgrims paid tribute to the cats by, get this, shaving off all or part of their children's hair, which was then exchanged for fish, and the fish was fed to the cats. There's kind of no record of what happened to the hair, oh wait, it's not a cat, but this wasn't here last time, so we've now got a meow oriental street food. So everybody wanting to get a piece of that cat action. You can see there's something about York and cats that sorry to read in the chat there. That just seems indivisible, doesn't it? We just seem to have cats all over the place wherever you look. So the Meow Cafe, which looks a lot of fun. And there's the little logo down there. The Cat Cafe is very near. In fact, I thought that was the Cat Cafe, and I thought, no, it's not, is it? So there's a hugely kind of well-attended festival of the cat goddess, and it's said that more wine was drunk by rowdy pilgrims than in the whole of the rest of the year. So cats were kind of associated with wild times, the biggest, booziest, misbehaving nights of the year. And the cult of the cat veneration led to a practice of cat mummification. And archaeologists have uncovered evidence of mass burials where thousands of cats were mummified and laid to rest wearing pained feline masks in a tribute to Bastet. So where's the cat? Oh, it's up there, right. So it was once believed that a mummified cat would mediate between the gods and the former owner, generating good fortune for the humans left behind. And this belief became so widespread that pet cats did not always die naturally. An examination of mummified returns gives evidence of a grim trade. So we'll come back to that story in just a minute, but we're looking out for another of our sculptures. So get them peeled. Cat on the menu. And hopefully, hoving interview for you.
You caught me at a very good time when I worked.
We got it? We're outside the cat's whiskers. We're going to see a real life cat in a moment. Magic mushrooms. There we go. On the wall, absolutely Dawn's got it there. So let's just zoom in for you. So again, a beautiful sculpture, this one. I hope you're enjoying not just, finding these cats, but the artistry of how each one is distinctly different from each other. It's not a case of it's the same thing being repeated over and over. The artists are taking opportunities to create new presentations, if you like, new elements, new ideas of kind of cat movements and kind of cat characteristics at every turn, which I just think is absolutely divine. And so this one's got a lovely kind of shiny stone, really awesome, just ready there to burst into action, isn't it? Absolutely divine, the sculptor. Really captured. So let's come off there, because we are famously at the Cat's Whiskers. So we couldn't not introduce you. So let's do a memory test now, because there's a cat over there, and let's see who is the one who can spot and name the cat. I'm just making sure that cat is on here. Okay, so we have Anna, Pumpkin, Coco, Simba, that's a cat bird, yeah, Daisy, Blue, down, there we go. Pickle, Milo, Willow, Snowy, Dotty, what a cutie Dotty is. Violet, this is a cat cafe, by the way. This is a place you can come and just hang out with cats, if that's your thing, which I know it is. We have Luna, Sprout, Maisie, Olive, Olaf, Teddy, Marley, Dobby, any Harry Potter fans out there? Ygritte. Oh, Bear's not got a picture, so... Oh, there's Bear, sorry. There's Bear. Zaya. And Ivy. So I've been adopted by my forever home. So these are, of course, largely rescue cats that kind of come in and now spend their time hanging around a cat birthday. Yep. So let's see who's got a fab memory. Who is this? Our first live cat on tonight's tour. Can we remember? Beautiful white. Remember? You might be a little bit too far behind on the chat. Snowy, fantastic, isn't it brilliant? Yeah. So Snowy is looks to be the only one that is visible for us right now. I'm just doing my best just to see if anybody else is. Oh, there's one. I don't know how well you can see. Just inside there. Couldn't tell you which one that is. I think it's. Oh, do we think this is Sprout? Let's have a look. There's Sprout, look. Yeah, I think that's. See anymore, but if you come into York, you're definitely going to want, of course, to check out the Cat Cafe. So that is their menu. So you can sit in here and drink your coffee, try and eat your brownies, and cakes, or smoothies, and of course, adore the cats. That's what you're there for. Is simply to adore the cats. You know, Cat Cafe in Irvington. So let's just sort of pick up our kind of story again. So, because there was a demand for deceased cats, but in a land where the kind of cat was revered, and the death penalty could be applied for killing a cat, the priests ran an illicit trade in cats, bred and reared to become mummified relics to be sold on to superstitious pilgrims. And this trade grew vastly, but even within the confines of the temple it was a risky business, with stories of cat killers being lynched by angry mobs. Now, has anybody spotted... So they're kind of arguably the world's first cat protection league, aren't they? Has anybody spotted the next one of our cats? I think you're probably starting to know where and how to look. We got it? Of course it is. On the wood ledge. So this is Goji, the vegetarian cat. Now, pleased about being vegetarian, I have a choice in that. But I love the vegetarian cafe. Sits Goji on the wind ledge. Again, very kind of calm, just demure. Just sitting there, feasting on. And I love the fact that almost all of these cats are at first floor as well. Almost nothing's at ground floor. So consequently, it's so easy to walk past and kind of not even spot or know these are here, which I just think is just lovely. And they just kind of sit there day in, day out, and it's lovely work, yeah. And of course, many people delightfully oblivious they're being spied on. So, historians tell us that domesticated cats had spread to Greece and Rome by 1000 BC. And they're kind of valued as pets, but more importantly for their ability to hunt vermin. Protecting valuable grain stocks from being eaten by mice and rats really could be the difference between food, famine, and kind of life and death, really. So their ability to protect ships' cargoes from vermin meant they were soon adopted by seafaring traders. Moving first into the kind of Mediterranean lands, and then along trade routes into India and the Far East, where they also became domesticated. Spanish colonists, we know, took their cats to discover South America, and the French introduced them to North America. And wherever cats arrived, they quickly became part of folklore and legend. And cats were often associated with good fortune. So in Chinese mythology, it was believed that if a household cat is light-coloured, the household will always be well equipped with silver. But if the house cat is dark, the owners may be fortunate enough to be well supplied with gold. In Indian culture, in Assam, the elders still tell of a tale of a time when a cat lived with its brother the tiger. And the legend has it the tiger became sick and realised he needed a fire to keep warm. And only man knew how to build a fire. So to help his brother, the cat approached a house in order to seek help. But there was no one at home. Instead, there was some fish and rice on the floor. Now, you can probably guess what happened next, right? So yeah, of course. The cat can't resist eating the fish. Afterwards, he went to take a nap by the fire, and only on waking did he remember his purpose. Whereupon he takes a burning stick in his mouth and returns to his friend. Now, as the tiger grows stronger, the cat revealed that he discovered a new way of life and was going to live in the house of a man where he could be sure of food and warmth. So legend has it the cat became domesticated. Now, there's another cat around here somewhere, but I'm going to have to look for it myself if I can get you to look for it, because I saw it a few weeks ago and I can't quite remember exactly where it is. But this is one of the new ones, so I don't think I'd have brought you on. I don't think I would have shown you on this cat last time round. But if I can remember exactly where it is, then we'll play out. Yes, that's right. Yeah. So keep them peeled. Always good to observant with the eyes of a cat. We got it? Just as soon as somebody calls it out. We'd like the thumbs up. Hey! Have we got it? We're just allowing for a slight delay in the chat. But hopefully by now. Oh, above the porch, absolutely, thank you. So, again, look at this one. Just so playful. The capture of these cats is just exquisite, isn't it? Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? And I really hope that if you had a house in York, that you'd be part of this, that you'd want to kind of join in. You've got a house in central York, that is. Because it's a most delightful thing, I think, to kind of join in. Isn't it gorgeous? So just ready to go, isn't it? It's a natural food curiosity. And it's hard to tell that there's some poor animal that's about to get it. But just a wonderful depiction of kind of feline behaviour, just really captures the intelligence of the ears. You look down the ears, you should know they're kind of intensely focused, don't you? Either through play, or through hunting or something, but that kind of head down, ears forward like that just tells you that that's a cat that is ready to spring into action. Wait for birds. I think you're absolutely right, and you wouldn't want to be a bird, would you? Because unfortunately, lovely as they are killing machines. But we can't blame their nature, can we? But I love the story about the cat sort of going off and falling asleep in the house and going, actually, do you know what? It's a better way of living. I'm going to do that. They do look very lifelike, don't they? So the nature of the cat there is kind of revealed. In Buddhist tradition, the cat disgraces itself before being admitted to nirvana. So all the animals having been summoned, hurried and scurried to a kind of sacred place, but not the cat. So everything else is hurrying, the cat just kind of takes its time. Very kind of leisurely progress, and stops to have a kind of cat nap. So the cat was punished by being excluded from the heavenly constellations, and he's not represented there. So if you think of all the constellations, there's no cat. There's a lion, but there's no cat. In a more kind of rather more prosaic telling, when Noah summoned the animals to the ark, all but the cats made haste. So the same story. The cat was slow in boarding, whereupon Noah, desperate to set sail, slammed the door, slicing off the cat's tail. And this became the tail of the Manx cat, the famous cat from the Isle of Man. So this cat was introduced to Britain when a fleet of Phoenician trading ships were wrecked off the coast of the Isle of Man. So ancient Britons soon began to worship these creatures. So for those who haven't seen, the Manx cat famously has no tail, which is kind of cool. So black cats, by the way, generally speaking, are thought to be proud, independent. Throughout history, they've kind of been viewed as sort of special. So quite a few of the cats we're going to sort of see tonight. Interesting, we've just been walking around the Bedens, sort of church sort of behind us here. I know Reverend Dot wasn't, hopefully she's still with us. There's kind of interesting relationship between cats and the church, which goes back many centuries. And one Celtic folk legend recounts the tale of a cat and kittens born in the stable at the same time as Jesus. So apparently Mary asked the help of all the animals to put the baby Jesus to sleep, but none could oblige. Then a small tabby kitten climbed into the manger and curled up beside the infant Jesus, upon which the child fell asleep, lulled by the kitten's gentle purring. And it's said that the Madonna rewarded the tabby kitten by ensuring that all tabby kittens would wear the letter M on their foreheads forever after. And again, sadly, I can't bring you an image, but if you think about that shape M, it is a lovely story. But the figure kind of most associated with cats in the church is St. Helena, and she was the mother of Emperor Constantine. So after St. Helena found the true cross in Jerusalem, she headed back to Constantinople, and on the way she stopped by Cyprus, and she was endowing a monastery there, and she intended to leave her a fragment of the true cross. And the monastery of St. Nicholas of the Cats is regarded as a sacred cat haven in Cyprus, and it's been linked to feline, for almost 2,000 years. The original monastery dates to 327 AD and was patronised by St. Helena, the mother of Constantine. At that time, a terrible drought affected the whole of Cyprus, and the entire island was overrun by poisonous snakes, which made building a monastery there a very dangerous affair, and many of the inhabitants left their homes and moved off the island for fear of the snakes. But St. Helena came up with a solution to the plague. She ordered 1,000 cats to be shipped in from Egypt and Palestine to fight the reptiles. So we'll come back to that story in just a minute, but it's time to do some more cat spotting. So this time we've got 2 cats. Evie's chocolate, right ahead. So start looking out. Tell me what you can see, when you can see it. The manger, yeah. Chocolate, I know. Yeah, so St. Helena brings in the cats, and in the kind of following years, the cats do their duty. They hunt and kill most of the snakes in the Akrotiri Peninsula, which soon became known as the Cat Peninsula. So thank you, somebody spotted there. So our first of our cats, absolutely lethargy, is up on the balcony. And I'll try and get it so that you can... This is actually the picture that I used in the tour image, so if you're wondering which one that is, that's it. So again, look at that tail, isn't that just magnificent? Just ready to pounce. Isn't that delightful? So the monks would use a bell to call the cats to the monastery at mealtime, and then the felines were dispatched to their snake hunting. So it'd be hunting snake, was it this one? And pilgrims from all over Europe travelled to the holy monastery of St. Nicholas to see its feline guardians, and discovered the documents of a Venetian monk described them as scarred, missing various body parts, some completely blind as a result of their relentless battle against snakes. It sounded a bit like Gordon, didn't it? In 1580, so I'm just going to go off zoom here so we can start looking out for our second cat. In 1580, the Byzantine monks of the monastery of St. Nicholas were awarded the surrounding lands on one condition: they had to take care of at least 1,000 cats and feed them at least twice a day. And the legend has it that they were looked after so well and trained that when the bell rang once, knew they had to go hunting for snakes, and when it rang a second time, it was mealtime at the monastery. Have we spotted our second cat? Linda, can see it. Wall on the... Can't read that. It's getting darker. Wall on the gable. Yes, absolutely, yes, yes. So this one actually is York's only kitten. It's a very cute little kitten there. The only one we have in the city is a kitten. So St Helena began to associate with cats and the religious life, and that continued. St Gertrude of Nivelles was known as the patron saint of cats, and gardeners believed would to be a great promoter. And by the Middle Ages, it was commonplace for nuns living in convents to keep a cat. And although the women were recluses, church authorities understood human nature all too well, and to deprive them completely of the opportunity to love and to nourish, and sort of, their natural affections wasn't all that helpful. Also, nuns had milk; that was part of their diet. So the association with milk and cats starts with the nuns, and so cats kind of kept the nuns free from rats and mice in their cells, provided comfort and companionship during the long hours of solitude. So nuns become really the first of the cat ladies, but unfortunately this association was to prove deadly, as we shall see. So I mentioned kittens. So this kitten here is the only one amongst York's kittens. But have we heard the expression, I don't know if it's used beyond England, to have kittens? Having kittens? Do you know that phrase? And it goes back to a superstition dating from the Middle Ages. Now then, by this stage, cats were increasingly kind of viewed with caution and mistrust, if not outright hostility. If a pregnant woman was in pain, it was believed she was bewitched, and there were kittens scratching at her insides. Of course, any woman believing herself to be cursed and about to give birth to kittens would not surprisingly become agitated, and this led to the common expression of having kittens. Have you ever heard that expression before? I don't know if... how did they get that high? Yeah, so let's go and find some more cats. Hope we're on a good time. I'm just going to have a little quick drink just while we kind of come around the corner. Having a nice time. That one's kitten, absolutely, Casey. So a bit dry today. It's been a really warm day. So it's like starting to cool down. It's quite pleasant. I'm actually a little bit cold, but it's quite nice. I've been sort of hot, overly hot for too long for today. So let's start looking out again. Another one of my favourites coming into view, and this is one of the famous cats by Tom Adams, who was the man who revived the centuries-old thing of having cats in York. So we can see. There we go. Chocolate and kitten. Yeah, chocolate lovers. It's just behind us now. It's the chocolate story. So there we go. I'll just try and give it a zoom. This is the Barnett's cat. This one is done by Tom Adams. So again, we're back to black cats. And it's not quite sort of clear what drove changing attitudes to cats, because they remained in demand, sort of protecting corn from vermin. But perhaps it's this independent nature. At a time when people literally lived alongside their animals, the kind of mystery and apparent detachment of the cat caused suspicion. And Dante, writing in the early 14th century, compared them to demons, using their kind of razor claws to keep souls in torment in his vision of hell. So the French church at Canterbury from the same period depicted cats with split tails, each ending in a serpent's head. I'll go back to the zoom there. This next one, by the way, is quite a tough one to spot, so I'll be well impressed. I need to find it myself, actually. All I'm going to say is it's not typical. It's not like the others. So with that in mind, I'll take you down. Oh yeah, I can see it now. Yeah. So you say to keep them peeled for this one. So the split tail, of course, is that kind of clear inference, isn't it? That evil is in our midst. And the public kind of reaction was as predictable as it is shocking. So apologies if there's anybody on here, if they're kind of young people, but unfortunately, hundreds of thousands of cats were cruelly slaughtered. They were burned, hung, and often horribly tortured before being killed. And the European population of cats, which has speedily grown to their introduction, was now slashed until it was only about a tenth of the population. So can we see the cat? It's not like the other one. Have to go now. Have to get Jasper to the vet. Hopefully it goes well with Jasper. Thank you, Robin. So give me a shout out if you can see the cat. You're all rooting for Jasper. A bit closer. So we're not looking for. That's it. It's on the sign here. So it's not normally found out here, but this one, quite unusually, is a flat cat. There we go. Isn't that funky? See, it's horrible what happens to cats. They just suddenly get sort of caught in the crosshairs of a sort of very superstitious culture, and it leads to their kind of widespread, basically massacring. And in popular kind of folk tales of the time, mice and rats succeeded by placing bells around the neck of their sworn enemy, the cat. And these stories are especially popular around the time of the peasants' revolts, the latter part of the 14th century, because there was a kind of hidden meaning. The cats were the symbol of the oppressors, of the extortionate ruling classes, and the rats and the mice represented the downtrodden peasants. And the bell, well, this was a demand for peasants to be warned when the cats were out hunting, meaning raising taxes to pay for foreign wars. So there you go, that's where that came from. Of course, Puss in Boots, famous story, isn't it? Where the cat is a very gallant, isn't it? But he carries on, but actually he's a pauper. So it's foreign wars that eventually to provide some respite to the increasingly endangered cat population. The Crusaders returning from the Holy Wars in Asia didn't come home alone. Stowed away in the ships were black rats, which carried the deadly bubonic plague into London. And the Black Death of the 14th century was responsible for the deaths of 40 to 60% of the English population. And such was the fear of rats that cats once more became hugely in demand to control the scourge. So it's kind of ironic that a plague which threatened to wipe out the human race, quite possibly saved the domestic cat from extinction in Europe. So let's start looking out for our next cat. If the Black Death had kind of saved the cat from extinction, he didn't alter people's superstitions. Black cats, not black kits. The roof, thank you, Linda. You've got it. Absolutely wonderful one. Tail up in the air. Oh, cancel. If I deleted somebody's message there, that was accidental. I was just being ham-fisted. Isn't that great? It's a little pigeon. You can't see it at the minute because it's all covered in netting to get the birds off it. But isn't that a wonderful one? So in this kind of bizarre roundabout way, the Black Death just came in time just to kind of make cats be prevented from going extinction. But it didn't change the superstition. It's not a squirrel, it's a pigeon. Oh yeah, well of course Dick Whittington was famously associated with a cat, wasn't he? Dick Whittington's cat. Go off the zoom there. So they might have been safe from extinction, but it didn't kind of alter the perception. Associations of cats with witchcraft dated back as far as the 10th century, when each Wednesday during Lent, hundreds of cats were burned in the belief that they were witches in disguise. And this becomes the official position of the Catholic Church when Pope Gregory IX denounced cats as evil and in league with Satan, especially black cats. So therefore anyone who associated with cats could come under superstition of being a witch. And in making this proclamation, the church ushered in an era of the witch hunt, which reached its peak during the 16th and the 17th centuries. Christian persecution saw hundreds of thousands of women executed as witches, and many, of course, of them were executed with their cats. So I'm going to remind myself now where the next cat is. It's a while since I've been down looking for this tour, but I think it's just down here, from Bradley. So looking out for another cat, unsurprisingly. There's lots of things down here that you think might be cats, but they're not. They are more like a dobby or two in a shambles as ever. And of course various pots and cauldrons. But we're not looking out for those. We're on the search of something furry. There we are, down there I think. So do keep them peeled, as you might say. Look at, I don't know what number cat this is now. They've been becoming thick and fast, haven't they? But we definitely, this is one of the more modern. So the cat coming into view in just a moment is quite modern, quite abstract, which is lovely. It's like a different way of portraying, but again, I think really captures just the essence of cats. Thanks for stopping by. Good to see you, as ever. Thank you for joining us here in York, enjoying all things feline right now on the shambles. Yeah, Dawn spotted it on the window. So let's zoom in. So quite a different kind of cat, this one really. If you have a look at just the portrayal, I think it's real kind of interesting, isn't it? So more sort of contemporary sort of presentation of a cat. And going back to the kind of witch hunts, if we think about sort of the contemporary sort of culture of the time, this kind of reflected the belief in this. So of course you've got, is the cat shop still here? Is that gone now? Moved a little bit further down. Macbeth, of course. In Shakespeare's play, Macbeth famously features three witches with a cat who's got a familiar, isn't it, called Grimalkin, if you remember Macbeth. And no one's entirely sure why cats became objects of such fear and vilification. Maybe it's a kind of reaction against the cat's ancient pagan worship. What was clear was the owners of cats, they became the focus of kind of fear and superstition. So there was a small cat shop here, used to sell glass cats, and I think, has it gone? I think it's gone, you know, unfortunately. I think it's this Omni House Korean restaurant now, because it's not here anymore. So yes, this was the Glass Cafe. So unfortunately, we appear to be a cat short. But I can only apologise that that's gone. I'm just looking around to see if there's any cats left in its. No, here's one. Oh, it must be this one actually. Right, you ready? Look out, we've got another one. Very careful around black cats at Halloween. Remind us to bring them inside. Yes, people are mean. Absolutely, Linda. So this one, unfortunately, it looks like Pigeon's Revenge. So all things feline. It's somewhat covered in excrement. Yeah, so this was the look for years. Lucky Cats, the glass cafe, the wall climber, absolutely baby husband. Lovely. So look at the muscles on the back leg. That's caught beautifully. That the structure, you know, the physiology, if you like, you know, of the cat. Isn't that kind of wonderful? Love that. Amazing. So I think that's cat number 11, maybe. So it's, yeah, it was definitely York glass this, but unfortunately it's gone now. So the cat remains. So that's the main thing, I suppose. The cat's still here. So cats were often companions of childless elderly women, and many of these women lived in convents before the dissolution of the monasteries and the Reformation, but now sort of continue their practice of solitude, and they lived in isolated locations with only cats for company. So it starts this idea of, you know, the cat lady as being something to fear, and it's rumoured that these women give succour to their demonic cats in a kind of cruel parody of the way a mother nurses an infant. And these unfortunate women and their cats were blamed for babies being born with birth defects, any sudden deaths or any mishap that occurs in a village community. and the trade who travel from village to village in the hunt for witches and their black cats. And cats with all black fur were considered the most evil of all, and often singled out for the cruelest treatment and burned with their keepers. And as a result, cats with all black fur became less common, whereas black cats with even a small amount of white will be allowed to survive. And the superstition of a black cat crossing your path comes from this era, when it was believed that evil had quite literally passed you by, and the church was full in support of this, and they'd often treat torture and sacrifice as the cat as the way to respond to this. On feast days, saints were celebrated by burning large numbers of cats alive as part of the festivities. And encouraged by the position of the authorities, cruelty to cats had kind of become a grim form of public entertainment, with notorious cat organs designed with ropes and spikes to make music out of the cries of a group of terrified cats. And this cruelty for entertainment, born out of the witch craze, will continue for another century before it began to fade out. So we're looking for our next cat. Sorry some of these stories are so unpleasant, but I just think it's really important for us to recognise that cats haven't always had it as easy as your cats do right now. And it is so important that we treat children and young people to treat animals well, because we are all horrible under the surface. Civilization is a mere kind of coat of varnish, isn't it? But this cat here, let me know what you've spotted, because this is probably most people's favourite here in York. We're at the Golden Fleece. There's a haunted pub in York, supposedly minimum of at least 4 ghosts here. Have we seen it? It has a very special cat, not at all like the others, because it is famously, is it? A ghost cat. Can we see the ghost cat? Coming out of the window. Isn't that amazing? So this is officially the most haunted pub, one of the most haunted pubs in the country, where it's said that ghostly scratching can be heard from a cat walled up alive to die in the building. And this was a common practice at the time. It was believed to ward off evil spirits. Gorgeous, isn't it? Absolutely love this one, the ghost cat. One of my favourites. So you might be kind of wondering at this stage, are cats ever going to get an even break? It just sort of seems that they are absolutely... Oh my god, hang on. What have I done now? Let me just go off Zoom. Right. I've got fat finger syndrome because I keep coming on and off Zoom. And, there we go. It's absolutely nightmare. But it's good that I've got Zoom. But my fingers are simply like, it's like trying pork sausages to do kind of microsurgery. But anyway, nonetheless, we're back where. So you kind of might be wondering by this stage, you know, are cats ever going to get a break? And why is this tour so miserable? You want nice, happy stories about cute kittens, along with giving you tales of kind of misery about cruelty to cats. Well, you'll be relieved to hear that at this stage, with 5 of our cats' lives already used up, things start to look up. And the reason was a hugely popular European folktale of the 17th century. Does anyone know its name? I already mentioned it a few minutes ago, because I was jumping forward, then I remembered I need to talk about it a little bit later on. It was, of course, it is a bit rowdy, yeah, but it's alright, it's good natured, it's not weekend, so it's the story of Puss in Boots, and it's written by Charles Perrault in his 1697 book of folktales, Mother Goose, that also includes Cinderella, Little Red Riding Hood, and Sleeping Beauty. So what an influence that book was on our culture. But this wasn't necessarily writing these tales, it's pulling them together a lot more already existed. So Puss in Boots presented a very different image of the cat to that of which is familiar, a representation of evil. So the story goes that once upon a time there was a poor miller who had 3 sons. And when the miller died, the first 2 sons greedy took everything. And they left the house. They only left behind the cat for the 3rd son. The son was really sad. He loved his father the most. And he kind of wept for him and said, I've nothing but this cat. I have to eat him, and then I shall die soon. So hearing this, the cat says, Master, please give me a bagful of carrots and grain and see what great wonders I can do. Please give me your coat and boots too. So the miller's son gave the cat all he asked for. So Puss in Boots now set off for the jungle. He lay a trap with carrots in it and caught a rabbit. So Puss in Boots also caught a couple of partridges with his grain the master had given him. So Puss in Boots then went to meet the king. He presented the partridges and the rabbit to the king and said, Your Majesty, these are gifts from my master, the Marquis of Carabas. And the king was very pleased with the gifts. On his way home, Puss in Boots passed by some fields where harvesters were working in the sun. And he commanded them, if anyone asks to whom these fields belong, you must reply they belong to the Marquis of Carabas. If you do not agree, I'll get the ogre to eat you all up. So the workers were frightened of the ogre and agreed to do so. When Puss in Boots reached home, he told his master, Master, you'll be meeting the king soon, so do as I say. Go to a river nearby and have a bath. The man did as he was told. The cat did what the cat told him, rather, and took off his clothes and jumped into the river. So Puss in Boots immediately took out all the clothes and hid behind a rock nearby. When the king's carriage passed, the cat went up to the king and said, Your Majesty, my master is drowning. Some thugs robbed him of his fine clothes and pushed him into this river. Please save him. So the king, on hearing this, commanded his servants, Save the Marquis of Carabas and give him the finest clothes to wear. So they did as he told him, and the cat and his master were now very happy. So now when the carriage went past the fields, the king stopped by and asked the workers, To whom do these fields belong? The Marquis of Carabas, Your Majesty. The king was very pleased to hear this. Puss in Boots, in the meantime, ran ahead of the king's carriage and he went to the castle nearby. And there lived a ferocious ogre. And the cat said to him, I've heard of your mighty powers. I've heard you can become anything you want to. The ogre laughed and decided to show Puss in Boots his powers. Of course, he replied, and instantly turned into a lion. Then the ogre became a monkey and finally became his real self. Now the clever cat challenged, I'm sure you cannot become one of the tiniest creatures in the world. You could never become a mouse. And the ogre was enraged and said, Watch this. Saying this, he turned into a tiny mouse. Puss in Boots quickly pounced on him and ate him up. So when the king and the miller's son reached the castle, the cat said, Welcome, Your Majesty. This is the castle of the Marquis of Carabas. And hearing this, the king was very pleased. He asked the miller's son to marry his youngest and loveliest daughter. And the miller's son knew that the king's daughter was very beautiful and agreed. Soon they were married and lived happily ever after in the castle. So such was a tale of good fortune because the cat's actions had profoundly influenced positively. And so throughout Europe, it was taken up by musical entertainers as one of the first pantomimes, and it's still performed to this day. And it was also the beginning of the change in fortune for cats. So isn't it remarkable that after everything that had happened, it's the telling of a folk tale and how a cat can bring wealth and happiness and good outcomes. But let's got to go. Okay, Nancy. We're running a little bit over time, but can we see? Isn't that wonderful? Straight up there. Another cat. This is probably the lowest one. It's one of the ones people really struggle to find when they've got the map. But I love this pussycat. So let me just try and give you his expression. Isn't that absolutely wonderful? Really sneaky. Really sneaky. Absolutely love that one. But yeah, a lot of people struggle to find that one. Yeah, so it's this collection of folk tales really kind of does a brilliant PR job, if you like, for cats. So cat persecution had reached its kind of heights in the 17th century, but cats never entirely lost their popularity, and the emergence of books and popular literature in the 18th century sort of helped to expressed the love that many felt for their cats. And there have been kind of positive stories about cats in folk tales such as Dick Whittington and Puss in Boots, where cats were presented in a very different light. But it's not until 1727 that a whole book was published on the subject. It was called Les Chats by French author Moncrief, and it was a passionate defence of cats. But actually at the time, unfortunately, the reception was very negative. Look at that, isn't that wonderful? Look at that Art Nouveau. Moncrief was mocked and jeered and exposed to ridicule through cruel satires. And eventually Moncrief relented and the publication was withdrawn from sale. But thankfully the 18th century became the age of the cat lover with Dr. Johnson. Samuel Cowper and Horace Walpole were all writing at length about the joy and companionship of a cat, and Thomas Gray immortalising their charms in poetry. Perhaps in response to this kind of treatment received by Moncrief, in the 1760 novel The Life and Adventures of a Cat was published anonymously. The hero of the story was a cat called Tom, and the book became so successful that the name Tomcat became synonymous with male cats, which up until that point had been known as rams or boars. So we've got two more cats coming up. Keep them peeled. So the literary tradition of writing about cats continued into the 19th century, but there still remained the belief that cats needed protection from unfair stereotypes. Emily Bronte wrote, "A cat, for his own interest, sometimes hides his misanthropy under appearance of most endearing gentleness. Instead of scratching what he desires with his master's hands, he approaches in a caressing manner, rubs his pretty little head against him, and sticks out his paw to touch as soft as down. This act finished the resumes of the characters Timon. Such finesse in him we call hypocrisy, but in ourselves we get another name, politeness." Then I suspect you can probably see the first of our two cats high on the wall. Is it? Sounds good. Okay, Deirdre. We're nearly done. So we have our first of two cats now, very, very close together. So Byron, Keats, Shelley, Sir Walter Scott, all passionate defenders of cats. And this love sprang up in art, with the French Impressionists expressing their love for the animal in great masterpieces, and such was the interest in these paintings. The first cat gallery opened in 1895, overseen by the wonderfully named Professor Hippolyte Feline, and it contained works by Monet, Gauguin, Cézanne and Degas. By this time cats were inspiring interest and study across the whole realm of art and science, including Charles Darwin's first study of cat behaviour in 1872, providing, for instance, why a happy cat will alternatively protrude their front parts as if pushing against something. It was identified with stimulating their mother's milk as kittens. The first cat show was held at Crystal Palace in the 1880s and became the destination for affluent to acquire exotic breeds to impress their neighbours. But that's not all to say that that cats now live luxury. Many still lived on the streets at the mercy of the piemen who confronted the high price of meat, would quite happily make meat from stray cats. So Charles Dickens was amongst those who spoke out about the need to protect cats, as did Florence Nightingale, who would not travel without her 60 cats. So Florence Nightingale had 60 cats that she wouldn't travel without. And the change activities, the change kind of attitudes reflected the Wild Animals of Captivity Act, Protection Act, which came into law in 1900, which finally made it an offence punishable by prison for causing unnecessary suffering to animals. So finally cats have the protection of the law. So if cats are doing their place in society through vermin control, by the beginning of the 20th century, most just pets, and few owners insist on their cats earning a living by catching mice. Modern cats are not like modern dogs. They don't really do obedience, they don't do teamwork. There's no sniffer cats, no police cats, no hearing or guide cats, and few, if any, guide cats. And yet there are stories of working cats. So working cats have been regularly employed by Post Office since 1868, when large numbers of money orders were nibbled by mice. The Secretary of the Post Office agreed a daily wage of 1 shilling per week for the cats, but insisted they should not be overfed. And by the 1980s, the cats' wages had risen to £2 per week, but there's no records of what the cats spent the money on. 2 world wars created additional demand for postal cats, as relatives sent hundreds of thousands of food parcels to the servicemen overseas. A kind of development not lost, of course, on the rat population. The trenches of the First World War provided bountiful habitat for rats, and once again cats were called upon, and thousands of cats were in service in the trenches, managing the rat population, but also crucially, at a real kind of human level, providing comfort and companionship to the serving men who adopted the cats as kind of lucky mascots. There's a story of a cat. I'm just going to do this. This is one really hard spot, so I'll give you some zoom in a minute. But it's a really nice story of a cat, and he was born in the trenches and adopted by a Belgian soldier in the First War. His name was Pitucci. As he'd lost his mother as a kitten, he was adored by the soldier, and he followed the soldier everywhere. The soldier was given the job to creep across no man's land into a crater near the German trenches and secretly make drawings of enemy artillery positions. It was a kind of deadly assignment, and so it almost proved when the German soldier on patrol sighted him and called out to his comrades. So, spooked by the sound, Pitucci jumped out of the hole onto a piece of timber, writes Susan Bolander in her book Soldiers in Fur and Feathers. The Germans fired 2 shots at Pitucci. However, as frightened as he was, Pitucci was not hit, and he jumped back into the hole with his beloved owner. The Germans, figuring they'd made a mistake, laughed it off and went on their way, and the Belgian soldier returned to the camp with the vital drawings, completed and Pitucci on his shoulder. Now, sadly, not all cats survived the war, particularly those used to detect gas attacks, because cats are much more sensitive to gas than humans and acted, unfortunately, as a kind of canary in the coal mine role. And around 500% have become victims, but often their presence saved many lives, as it provided a vital warning to the men to don their gas masks. I'll be very impressed if anybody managed to spot the fantastic ridge-tails. Yes, Dawn, great. I did give you some longer on that one because it is a really hard spot, but and again, even on zoom there, you see it's quite a distance. It's very difficult to precisely to get that one down for us. But so cats have always worked on board ships. Let's just go back up there. And many sailors viewed them as kind of lucky companions, and none more so than Oscar. So Oscar begins his working life as the mascot of a mighty German battleship, the Bismarck. And when the Bismarck was sinking in 1941, Oscar was spotted swimming in the wreckage and fished out by a British naval officer. So Oscar was taken on board HMS Cossack, where he settled in. But 5 months later, Cossack was hit and was also sunk. And miraculously, Oscar was saved again, this time by the crew of the Ark Royal, which became his new home. And when, in due course, Ark Royal was attacked by a German U-boat, Oscar was rescued once again. This time, the naval authorities decided that Oscar had done his bit for the Navy and was retired with full military honours and lived out the rest of his life on shore. So, the Dickin Medal you might have heard of is the equivalent of the Victoria Cross. It's awarded for bravery under fire, but it's only awarded to animals. And it's only been once awarded to a cat, Simon. So Simon the cat was found in the dockyards of Hong Kong, smuggled aboard and adopted by the crew of HMS Amethyst. And he was particularly adept at catching and killing rats on the lower decks, and Simon rapidly gained a name for cheekiness, leaving presents of dead rats in the sailors' beds and sleeping in the captain's cap. The crew viewed Simon as a lucky mascot, none more so than the new captain, who was given the mission to travel up the Yangtze River to Nanjing. So halfway up the river, the ship became embroiled in the Amethyst incident, when the Chinese communist gun batteries opened fire on the frigate. Simon was in the captain's cabin when bullets ripped apart the cabin, fatally wounding the captain and leaving Simon with terrible injuries. No one expected him to survive, but he hung on, and he continued his role in catching rats, as well as raising the morale of the sailors, who believed that having Simon on board provided the luck to keep them alive. So news soon spread about Simon as Amethyst began its journey home. Simon was feted and received awards in every port they reached. On his arrival at Plymouth, he was given a special welcome and given the honorary rank of Able Sea Cat and awarded the Dickie Medal. Now sadly, Simon was then quarantined, and during this detention he died, probably from the complications associated with his war wounds, and he's buried at the animal cemetery in Ilford. Hundreds attended his funeral, including the entire crew of HMS Amethyst. His gravestone reads, "In memory of Simon, served the HMS Amethyst, May 1948, November 1949. Throughout the Yahtzee incident, his behaviour was of the highest order." So not every cat has needed to endure pain and suffering to become celebrated. Arthur, a white cat, became a TV star in the 1960s, appearing in adverts for cat food. So Arthur had a remarkable ability to eat food out of a tin with his paw, remember Arthur? And this skill was so unusual that Spillers, the pet food manufacturers, bought him for a large sum. And when he eventually died, it took Spillers a decade of searching to find another cat with this skill. However, Arthur must have wished he launched his career in the USA, where his equivalent, Morris, enjoyed a Hollywood celebrity lifestyle. Driven around in a limousine, he appeared on talk shows. He once even dined at the White House and used a litter tray designed by Louis Vuitton. Orangey was another cat that achieved fame and fortune in the media. Starring as the cat in Breakfast at Tiffany's, he became notorious off camera for his unpredictable temper. In the previous film called Rhubarb, in which Orangey starred as a cat who inherits a vast sum, the scenes had to convey the devotion between Orangey, playing Rhubarb, and the film's human star, Ray Milland. Unfortunately, Orangey was having none of it and proved so ratty and uncooperative that in the end the Hollywood studio persuaded its leading man to have meat paste and catnip rubbed into him to establish a better relationship. It worked, and Orangey won a Patsy, the animal equivalent for the animal world. The Oscar equivalent, rather, for the animal world. So, cat 16 we're now looking for, almost at the end of this tour here on Coney Street. So if Orangey was the first kind of grumpy cat to win fame in the media, his kind of modern day equivalent has reached heights of fame visible through the internet that has made him a global superstar. The owner of Tartar Sauce from Arizona posted pictures under the name Grumpy Cat on Reddit in 2012, starting the Grumpy Cat meme series with millions of posts and shares across the internet. Again, I haven't got it with me, but I'm shooting the Grumpy Cat. So can we see the cat here? Who's spotted? So the prison kind of media sort of flocked to the door of his home to capture footage of the superstar feline. And predictably, the world's most famous grumpy cat refused to play ball, keeping his back to the camera throughout. But that's cats, isn't it? Every cat owner knows nobody owns a cat. And let's give it a little bit there. And just remember, you know, people that hate cats, I think, you know, will come back as mice in the next life. That's what they deserve. So, if you haven't already spotted, there we are. There is our final cat of the evening. Cat number 17. A lovely tip on his tail. Only 9 lives. Morris the cat, Linda remembers. So there we go, our final cat of the evening. I do hope you've enjoyed a walk with the mystery cats of York. It's been absolutely delightful to take you through York, to tell the story of kind of cats and their relationship with humans, and how our story together goes back, you know, thousands of years, all the way back to the ancient Egypts. And we've kind of come full circle, haven't we? The ancient Egypts revered cats in much the same way that we do, or perhaps went even further in worshipping. But a cat frequently sticking it around being our roommate. So let me just putting the camera on me for a moment. Not particularly want to look at myself, but it's a done thing, is it, towards the end of it all. So I think it's just nice that we've kind of gone on this journey, but that we mustn't ever sort of take for granted that the cats are safe, because deep within our human nature there is a pocket of belief that still exists that cats are sinister. I still know people that say, "Oh, I don't like cats." Don't like, and it's not just that they don't like them; they want to stay away from them. They think there's something sinister and nasty about cats. So I do think that anything we can do that keeps cats being portrayed in a kind of positive light is generally useful. And I think there's a map of the cats. Yeah, there is a map of the cats. Although, obviously, I've only done probably about half of them. But the trouble is they get further and further out. So you might be a 10-minute walk in between sort of cats. So it sort of gets a bit too far for city centre. But if you're coming and you sort of want to spending an afternoon doing it, then there's about 30 altogether to discover. So I'm glad you enjoyed that, Dawn. So, how you go? So waiting. Oh, really, Dawn? Oh, that's fantastic. So it's only the second time I've done it. I'm not a big one for repeating tours. It's not that I don't like doing it. I just always love doing new stuff. So repeating tours always gets put on the back burner, because, like, compared to some guides, I never used to tour that much. So consequently, all the more reason why it could take me quite a while to kind of get back. So anyway, thank you so much, everybody. I've really, really enjoyed time in your company. If you're able at all to support this tour, then thank you very much. There is a link underneath the video. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you. I think I am next out and about on Sunday. We're going to take a nice walk over Hob Moor, have a look at the cows, the nature, and have a look at the beautiful neighbourhood nearby where I live. And again, I did that once before, so it's fun. So will you go back to Whitby? Absolutely, I'll go back to Whitby. Yep. We'll definitely go back to Whitby. It's just a case of when, under what capacity, and what stories. The last time we did ghosts, and might do something else next time. But yes, definitely back in Whitby. It's one of our special places, and we need very little reason to not go to Whitby. So thanks everybody so much. I look forward to seeing you all very, very soon. Bye bye. Oh, do give me a follow and stuff on, if you're not already, on my Facebook group, All Points North with John. You'll find us. So thank you everybody, and see you soon. Let's find a way of switching this off.